Welcome to Diplo. This tutorial is building the computer and the motherboard. Following on from learning about the motherboard and the components, I think it's important that we take a further look to understand all of the ports on the motherboard to understand how components connect to which part. First port I want to talk about is SATA. The SATA port is just here, and this is the male connector. This port is used to connect the hard drive to the motherboard. It's a successor to the parallel ATA port, which can be found on older motherboards. The SATA is the successor because the cable offers a faster transfer rate, at which data is sent between the computer and the hard drive. The next port I want to look at is the PCI port. This is where you can add expansion cards to your computer. This could be a graphics card, a network card, or a sound card, just like we've seen in the components. There is newer PCI ports, as you can see here. This is the Express 1, there's also the Express 16. These are the newer models over the older models. The next port I want to talk about is the RAM, just here. You can see there is a few vertical slots and with a RAM card already in. When adding RAM to a computer, it is vital to make sure that you have the correct DDR, which is the type of RAM to connect into the port. To check this, always check your RAM specification or motherboard specification. This can be found in the user manual or online. CPU socket. Under this fan here is a CPU socket where the CPU is stored. The reason why I can't get to it is because I want to keep the CPU saved underneath the fan. The reason why we have a fan is because the CPU is like the brain of the computer, so it's important that it keeps cool and not overworked and overheated. The CPU socket uses a pin grid array to make contact with the CPU. These pins on the bottom of the CPU connect to the holes on the socket. When inserting the CPU onto the motherboard, it's always important to make sure that these pins aren't broken, as it can break the CPU, which costs a lot of money. The final port I want to talk about is just here, which is the ATX port. The ATX port and cable is to connect the power supply to the motherboard to allow power to the computer and all the other components. And just in here, we have the power. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and learned about the motherboard.